They buried men differently in Dry Hollow, not with sermons, not with long lines of grieving voices or polished coffins lowered with ceremony. Just a shovel, hard ground, and silence. The kind of silence that didn't comfort you, the kind that stayed. For 3 years, Martha Hale had known that silence better than anyone. She had buried her husband herself. No preacher, no schwar, just her hands gripping a shovel until her palms tore open, and the Texas earth refusing to give way easily, as if even the land didn't want to let him go. After that, something in her changed. Not broken, not entirely, but hardened, like a door that never fully closed again. Dry Hollow wasn't kind to widows. It wasn't kind to anyone, truth be told. But widows, they were something else. They were watched, measured, waited out, because everyone knew the pattern. Amandius, a woman tries to hold the land, and eventually, the land wins, or someone else takes it. Martha knew it too. Every time she stepped outside and looked across the dry stretch of her property, fences sagging, soil cracking, wind carving quiet scars across everything she owned, she felt it. Time pressing in, waiting for her to fail. The cattle were gone, sold off piece by piece after Samuel died, just to keep food on the table. The well had dropped lower that summer than she'd ever seen. And the town? The town had already made up its mind about her. She saw it in the way conversation stopped when she walked into the general store. Heard it in the way voices dropped, just enough that she couldn't catch the words but could feel the meaning. She won't last. Not alone. Just a matter of time. They weren't cruel about it. Not openly. But they didn't have to be. Out here, kindness didn't come easy. And survival didn't wait for anyone. So, when the fever came through Dry Hollow that summer, it didn't just take lives. It exposed what was already fragile. The first man to die wasn't someone important. Just a ranch hand from the South Ridge. No family. No one to claim him. And suddenly, the town had a problem. Because no one wanted to dig the grave. The ground was too hard. The heat too punishing. And truthfully, no one wanted to stand that close to death. So they waited. A day. Then another. Until the smell started to carry. That's when someone said it. Ask Martha Hale. Not out of respect. Out of convenience. Because she had done it before. Because she already knew how. Because she was used to it. And because, in a place like Dry Hollow, once you did something like that, people never let you stop. They came to her that evening. 2 men from town. Hats in hand. Eyes avoiding hers. We were hoping. One of them started. Then stopped. Because there wasn't a polite way to say it. Martha didn't make them finish. I'll take care of it, she said. She didn't do it for them. She did it because someone had to. That night, she sat on her porch longer than usual. The sky stretched wide and empty above her. Stars, sharp and cold. The kind of sky that reminded you just how small you were. And that's when she saw him. A figure, walking the road into town. No horse, no wagon. No sound except the steady rhythm of boots against dirt. He didn't rush, didn't hesitate, just walked, like he knew exactly where he was going. That alone was strange, because no one came into Dry Hollow like that, not unless they were desperate or dangerous. And sometimes, those were the same thing. Martha stood slowly, her eyes narrowing. The man didn't look up as he passed her property, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge her at all. But she noticed things anyway. The way he carried himself, balanced, controlled. The way his shoulders stayed loose, not tense like a man on edge. And most of all, the shovel strapped across his back. That made her pause. Because men carried guns, knives, supplies, not shovels. Not unless they had a reason. And in Dry Hollow, there weren't many good reasons for that. He disappeared into town without a word, and Martha stood there long after he was gone, staring into the dark road like it might explain something. It didn't. The next morning, the town felt different, quieter, not peaceful, just watching. By midday, word had spread. There was a new man in Dry Hollow. He had come in late, said almost nothing, and when someone asked what he was looking for, he gave a single answer. Work. That was it. No story, no explanation, just work. Men like that didn't usually stay long, but this one did something unexpected. He went straight to the edge of town, where the body still lay waiting, and without asking anyone, without announcing himself, he started digging. No complaints, no hesitation, just the steady, rhythmic sound of steel biting into hard Texas earth. By the time Martha arrived, the hole was already halfway done. She stood there, watching him. The sun beat down hard enough to blur the air. Dust clung to everything. But the man didn't slow, didn't wipe his brow, didn't speak. He just worked, and something about it unsettled her, because it wasn't desperation. It was precision. Every movement deliberate, measured, like he'd done it 100 times before. Maybe more. "You're new," she said finally. The shovel stopped, just for a second, then continued. "Name's Elias," he said. No greeting, no question back, just a name. Martha stepped closer, studying him now. He was older than she expected. Not old, but worn. Dark hair streaked with grey, face marked by lines that didn't come from age alone, and his hands, scared, not from labor, from something else, something harder. "You always take work without asking," she said. This time, he looked up, and for a moment, the world felt very still. His eyes weren't cold, but they weren't soft either. They were tired. "Some work doesn't need asking," he said, then went back to digging. Martha didn't respond, because deep down, she knew he was right. By sunset, the grave was finished. No mistakes, no shortcuts, just clean, solid work. The kind you didn't see often anymore. And when it was done, Elias didn't wait for thanks, didn't look for payment. He just leaned the shovel against his shoulder and started walking out of town, like it meant nothing. That's when Martha spoke again. "I could use someone like you." He stopped, didn't turn. "My place," she added, "needs fixing." Silence. The wind picked up slightly, carrying dust across the open ground. "You paying?" he asked. Martha hesitated, then told the truth. "I can feed you." Another pause. Then finally, he turned, studied her, not like a man sizing up a job, like a man deciding something else entirely. "Fair enough," he said. And just like that, the gravedigger came home with her. The road back to Martha Hale's property was long, quiet, and unforgiving. Dust clung to everything. Boots, clothes, skin, even thoughts felt heavier out there. Elias didn't speak as they walked, didn't ask questions, didn't try to fill the silence. And strangely, Martha didn't mind. Most men talked too much, explained themselves, tried to make you comfortable. Elias did none of that. He simply walked beside her, steady, unbothered, like silence was something he understood better than words. By the time her cabin came into view, the sun was already dipping low, stretching long shadows across the dry land. Elias stopped at the gate, didn't open it, didn't step forward, just stood there, waiting. Martha noticed. "You can come in," she said. He nodded once, opened the gate slowly, closed it behind him just as carefully. That small detail didn't escape her. Men who didn't belong somewhere rarely bothered to close gates. Inside, the land told its own story. Fence lines sagged where wire had loosened over time. The barn leaned slightly to one side, weather-worn and tired. Tools rested where they'd been last used, and never picked up again. It wasn't neglect. It was one woman, doing the work of two, and losing ground. Elias took it all in without comment, but she saw it in his eyes. Assessment, not judgment. That made a difference. "You can sleep in the shed," Martha said. "Better than the ground." He nodded again. Appreciated. No smile, no extra words, just acceptance. That night, Martha sat on the porch longer than usual. The wind had shifted, cooler now, carrying the faint scent of rain from somewhere far off. She could hear him in the distance, not moving around, not settling in, working, a quiet rhythm of metal, wood, movement. She didn't go to check, didn't want to, because part of her already knew, whatever he was doing, he wasn't doing it for show. By morning, the place had changed, subtly, but undeniably. The gate swung smoother, the loose hinge that had creaked for months. Silent now. A broken fence post near the well stood upright again, reinforced with wire pulled tight and clean. Even the tools were arranged, not where Samuel had left them, but where they should have been all along. Martha stood in the yard, turning slowly, taking it all in. He hadn't asked, hadn't said anything. He had just fixed things. Elias stepped out from the shed, wiping his hands with a cloth. "You start early," she said. He shrugged. "Ground's easier before the sun sets in." That wasn't an answer. Not really. But she didn't push. Instead, she handed him a tin plate. Cornbread. Eggs. He took it with a quiet nod, sat on the step, ate slowly, not like a starving man, like someone used to rationing. That caught her attention. "You been on your own long?" she asked. He didn't look up. Long enough. That was all he gave her. And for now, it was enough. The work began that same day. Fence first. The backstretch had nearly collapsed in places. Wire hanging loose, posts barely holding. Martha had tried to fix it herself more times than she could count. But the land fought back. Always. Elias didn't fight it. He worked with it. Measured distances. Replaced posts. Pulled wire with a precision that made the whole thing look effortless. By midday, the section she'd struggled with for weeks stood straight and solid. She watched from a distance, hands resting on her hips. Something about it didn't sit right. Not the work, the ease of it. Men who learned this kind of skill didn't wander into towns like Dry Hollow with nothing but a shovel. That evening, she spoke again. "You ever work cattle?" she asked. He nodded once. Some. The word felt too small for what she'd seen. But again, she let it go. Because pushing too hard on a man like that usually got you nothing. Or worse. Days passed. Then more. And something settled into place. A rhythm. Martha worked the garden. Elias worked the land. They spoke when needed. Shared meals. Sat on the porch some evenings without saying a word. And somehow, it didn't feel empty. It felt balanced. That was new. Dangerous, too. Because balance could fool you into thinking things were steady. Out here, they never were. The town started noticing. It always did. A stranger staying longer than expected. A widow no longer struggling the same way. A place that looked better. That kind of change didn't go unnoticed. And it didn't go unchallenged. Silas Crow heard about it by the end of the week. He always did. Crow wasn't just a man in Dry Hollow. He was control. Owned land. Controlled water access. Loaned money. Collected it with interest. And when people couldn't pay, he found other ways to collect. Martha's land had been on his mind for a while. Widows didn't hold out forever. They always broke. But now there was something new. Something he didn't understand. And men like Crow didn't like what they didn't understand. He rode out that evening. Alone. Didn't need company. His reputation rode with him. Martha saw him coming long before he reached the gate. Her stomach tightened. Elias was near the fence line. Working. Crow didn't look at her first. He looked at him. Slow. Measured. Like a man studying something unfamiliar. "Don't remember hiring you," Crow said. Elias didn't stop working. Didn't even look up. That was the moment everything shifted. Because in Dry Hollow, you acknowledged Silas Crow. Or you paid for it. "You deaf?" Crow asked. Elias drove the hammer down once more. Then, finally, he stood, turned, met his eyes. No. One word. Flat. Final. And just like that, the air changed. Martha felt it immediately. The tension. Sharp. Unforgiving. Crow smiled. But it wasn't amusement. It was interest. "You ever dig a grave for a man who ain't dead yet?" Crow asked. The question hung in the air. Elias didn't answer. Didn't move. Didn't react. And somehow, that was worse. Crow held his gaze a moment longer. Then looked at Martha. "Careful who you let on your land," he said. Then turned his horse and rode off. The dust hadn't even settled before Martha spoke. "Who are you?" Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Elias didn't answer right away. He set the hammer down, wiped his hands. walked toward the porch, sat, looked out over the land, like he was deciding how much truth to give. "Someone who's done things," he said finally. "That ain't worth repeating." Martha stepped closer. "That man don't talk like that, unless he's used to being obeyed. I noticed. You didn't seem concerned." That made him pause. Just slightly. Then, "I've met worse." Silence stretched between them. The wind picked up again, carrying dust across the yard. Martha studied him. Really studied him now. The way he sat. Still. Controlled. Not tense. Not afraid. Just ready. That's when she understood something she hadn't before. Elias wasn't just capable. He was dangerous. And for the first time since Samuel died, that didn't scare her. It steadied her. That night, neither of them slept easily. The land was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that came before something broke. And somewhere out in the dark, Silas Crow was thinking,